Well, after months and months of film evaluation, it is finally time to give you our Superflex 2024 Dynasty
Let's
rookie
go.
rankings. We will be going about 30 players deep, 6 total tiers, and we'll be having some in-depth conversations. So thanks for joining. Go ahead and hit that like button. But Badaki, it is very good to be in draft mode, kind of thinking about the 2024 season.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm already looking at my teams hoping that they lose so we can get this top talent. I'm hoping that your team wins so we can surpass you. There's so many different ways this NFL draft can go with all these players as well. So it actually is really exciting coming into this year here. But we're going to be looking at your top, I guess, like you said,
30 or so.
35 plus. Yeah, right. Dynasty Superflex rookie rankings here. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into it with your first overall tier.
All right, so my first tier, it's actually pretty big. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It's a big first tier, and
Sure.
people often ask where is the the drop off point in a first round. I think this first round, the first 5 picks in my opinion, are very very strong. Caleb Williams is currently my number 1 ranked player in the class. I think there is a little bit of prospect fatigue with this name, Badaki. It seems like people are finding
I would say
ways
everyone
to
in this first tier.
yeah, people are finding ways not to be in on Caleb Williams, but the more I watched his film, the more I realized, and the more I scouted the players around him as well, the more I was impressed with him. I mean, he did not have much help at USC this year. Fun little fact, by the way, according to teamrankings.com, this is where USC ranked out of 133 college football teams that they tracked this year, okay? In scoring, they ranked 4th, averaging over 41, almost 42 points per game on offense.
Yeah.
But USC's defense ranked 119th out of 133 when you look at
Sheesh.
defensive points allowed. That's why I was saying so often in these videos, like every snap, every rep counted so much for Caleb Williams. It was life or death. It was life or death. We were either going to win or lose based on every single decision that I make. And that was tough for him with a lack of talent around him. But I love his IQ. Love the athleticism, the off-schedule playmaking. You see a little of the Patrick Mahomes-esque. I think at minimum he's a Dak Prescott type player at the next level. So he's 100% solidified in this top tier for me. Love Marvin Harrison Jr. We've talked about him ad nauseum at this point, but one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in quite some time. I think will be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. I also love Malik Neighbors. That's right, my 3rd overall ranked player in this class, including the quarterbacks. I keep saying that there are 2 elite wide receiver prospects in this class.
Yeah.
And if Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't in this class, people would finally give Malik Neighbors his flowers. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to give him his flowers. The number 1 PFF receiving grade this year with wide receivers who had at least 50 targets, a 92.7 grade. Super versatile player. I mean, really fits today's NFL game. You don't have to be 6'4", 215 to dominate in today's NFL.
Not
Some
anymore.
of your favorite wide receivers are sitting right at 6 foot.
Yeah.
This is a guy who is
100%.
versatile. You can line him up all over the field. He can play multiple different roles. Great route runner. I mean, he can be even better, but he's already a very, very talented route runner. So many double moves where he is getting wide open down the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Great ball skills, silky soft hands you see on film, great speed. And what separates him and Marvin Harrison Jr. is that Malik Neighbors is a more explosive athlete. He is better after the catch. And I just think he's a more exciting player to watch. Doesn't mean he's as refined as a Marvin Harrison Jr. I still prefer Marvin. But when I look at Malik Neighbors, I'm seeing shades of Antonio Brown, shades of Reggie Wayne, shades of DJ Moore. So I'm a huge fan of his game. I also have his teammate Jaden Daniels in this first tier. I've talked about how much I love this player. We know the rushing threat that he is, but he's also one of the best passers in college football this year. Took huge strides, did not turn the ball over very much, and made some huge plays. And obviously in fantasy, you get the rushing upside as well. And I also love me some Drake May. Drake May is not some secondary player in this tier. I want people to focus more on this tier rather than the way that they're ranked. Okay? You might like Drake May as much as the 101. You might have him ahead of Caleb Williams. I don't discredit you for that. That is completely fine. I'm focusing more on the tier. And I think if you have a top 5 pick in this draft, you should feel very good because you're going to get a very exciting talent. Drake May is not a He's not a finished product just yet. There's a lot of growth still to do, but he has a ridiculous arm. I mean, his arm strength is undeniable. He has the perfect size to be a franchise quarterback, had the number 1 big-time throws in college football this year, the 6th best big-time throw percentage, had the 3rd best deep passing grade of throws of 20-plus yards, ridiculous velocity. He's a great athlete, and he's an on-the-go learner. Reminds me a little bit of Justin Herbert. So that is my top tier there, Badaki. We might disagree on where they're ordered, but actually you might not agree with everyone I have in that top tier. How do you feel about that?
No, look, I think what I would have done personally just to separate these guys a little bit more, and maybe it's just more of a nitpicking and breaking down of each tier. I probably would have moved, kept Caleb or Marvin as the tier 1 and then moved everyone to tier 2. Like, that's how nitpicky this is, right? But look, everyone here is in my tier 1 as well. I would say I would also include Rome Odunze in that tier, which I'm pretty sure we'll definitely talk about here, which I'm assuming is going to be in your tier 2. But look, outside of the order, everyone's in the tier without a doubt. I would definitely order them a little bit differently. And I think that just shows how different, this year's class has been, how much other people like different players, and the talent that was around them as well. And I think a lot of people, not saying you specifically, but the fantasy community, I've seen a lot of narratives that Jaden Daniels should be the 2nd overall pick, or, Marvin Harrison or Caleb Williams right next to Marvin Harrison and Caleb Williams. And, it's hard for me to kind of envision that specifically because of the talent he had around him. He had Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, what we're projecting wide receiver, first round wide receivers, and Drake May didn't have anyone, essentially. He has 10.
Right, but Drake May didn't play as well as Jane Daniels. I don't feel like we can
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying
for playing well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not saying you specifically. I'm saying that this is what I've been hearing.
I hear you. I'm just saying when someone plays well and they had good talent around them, I mean, they did exactly what they should have done. He goes out and wins a Heisman, but
and I think
obviously I hear it. It's going to be easier for you to play well with some of the best talent around you.
And I think that's going to be a huge conversation as well, because going into the NFL draft, that's going to be the conversation. Well, Jaden had 2 top wide receivers. Drake May didn't. What happens if Jaden Daniels goes to a bad team that doesn't have weapons like the Patriots?
Most of these players are going to bad teams.
Exactly, exactly. So that's essentially what I was trying to say. Doesn't really matter. All these guys are in the same tier. Don't be nitpicking on the actual landings or the numbers that we have him or the order that we have him. Let's just have conversations.
So I have no doubt that people are going to be, I guess, frustrated that I don't have Caleb and Marvin in their own tier. Mm-hmm. But this is genuinely, after deep diving into film, this is genuinely how I feel. Mm-hmm. I do not feel that the 103 is that much less valuable than the 101. I truly today can sit here and say that. I've said multiple times in our wide receiver videos that Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. are in the same tier for me. So I couldn't now make a video, and I wholeheartedly believe that. And I don't want to start fights in the comment section, but I would not be surprised if Malik Neighbors ends up being a better fantasy wide receiver. It would not surprise me. I'm not saying it will happen. I have Marvin ahead of him, but I couldn't. I almost did that, Badaki. I almost put them all in separate tiers just to please the people, but that's not how I personally feel. I feel like if you're getting a top 5 pick, the 105 could be just as valuable as a 101 this year. And remember, guys, last year, the 105 for most people was CJ Stroud, and he ended up being the most valuable player in rookie drafts. So, just keep in mind, I understand that a lot of people might be upset that I don't have that separated where Caleb and Marvin aren't in their own tier, 100%. But this is truly how I feel. And I wanted to bring my true thoughts, not just please the people and make it look like what other people's videos might look like or whatever the case may be, what other people's rankings might look like.
Yeah, 100%. So. And keep in mind, before we get into your second tier, we're fluid. This is fluid. This is going to change, right? Yes. We are so early in recording this video whenever you're watching this, that this tier's breakdown is going to change maybe right after the combine or right before the combine or after the NFL draft. Keep that in mind here. But take us to your tier 2.
I was just going to quickly say, when I first brought up Jane Daniels, this was multiple weeks ago, maybe a month ago now by the time this is being recorded. there was a lot of pushback, but now it seems to be more accepted in the community. So things will change. I will I will look at more film.
I
will
think that's
look
because
at
of
people that
mainstream media, by the way.
Say again?
I think that's because of mainstream media, because now we're seeing a lot of mainstream media saying, don't be surprised if Jaden Daniels goes ahead of Drake May. And before,
because when we first talked about that, he was being mocked in the second and third round of drafts, and I was like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
There's no way
100%.
this guy's getting out of the top 10.
Yeah.
So things change, and we will adjust as the NFL adjusts. But that is my top tier. By the way, guys, just quickly, we have already released our rookie scouting and ranking package.
Yeah.
So if you want to go check that out, it's available to anybody on the Flock Fantasy website who uses the promo code LAND. If you want to see in-depth breakdowns of all of these prospects, then again, use our promo code LAND, sign up to the Flock Fantasy website, make sure you're on the Mother Flocker tier. But here,
Absolutely.
just quickly, is a breakdown of Marvin Harrison Jr. as an example. You will get this for all of these prospects that we're talking about today, full
awesome.
breakdowns, and it will continually update each and every month. It's an exciting thing to be a part of. So let's go dominate some rookie drafts together. But in my second tier, I do have Rome Odunze. I have mentioned this before. This is where it was hard for me, dude, because I've said this before that I think Jaden Daniels and Drake May are in the same tier. I think Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. are in the same tier. And it was like, I do love Rome Odunze, but I don't feel that way at the moment. So I had to kind of cut the line somewhere.
Okay. That's
but
fair.
Rome
That's
Odunze,
fair.
then Brock Bowers, then Emeka Egbuka. You and I have seen a lot of people down on Emeka Egbuka, but I was glad to see that you and I were on the same page when we originally revealed our rankings.
Yeah.
We both are big fans of Emeka Egbuka. His injury and his lack of production is the main reason that a lot of people are out on him, but that doesn't speak to any of his traits, and it doesn't speak to how he's going to translate at the next level. This is a very good route runner. He's got an impressive tempo within his routes, able to kind of throttle down and accelerate back up really quickly. Very good in zone, decisive planter. He's a super versatile player. Yeah, he played a lot in the slot, but he can play outside if you want him to at the next level. He's not like 5'11". He's 6'1", 206. Good short area quickness, great functional speed. Probably not going to be a 4.3 guy, but he's also a very good yak player. Reminds me a little bit of a Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that is my top three. We love Brock Bowers, best tight end prospect since Kyle Pitts. And Rome Odunze, there's nothing that he doesn't do well. Like truly, you try and put strengths and weaknesses for some of these guys. You watch Rome Odunze and you're like, I mean, he might not do some things at an elite level, but there's nothing that he doesn't do well.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And now, like, as you're talking about it and I can visually see it here, I would actually have Rome and Brock Bowers in my tier one. I think a lot of people will probably say that specifically on Brock Bowers because of how great of collegiate career he has had and, so far. Not saying this is wrong, just wanted to throw that out there.
I hear you.
But yeah, love Rome Odunze, love Brock Bowers, love Emeka Egbuka. I think all these guys. I mean, guys, this is your first round. What's that? 5, 6, 7, 8. This is your top 8 picks in your first round in your rookie drafts, and we still have some more first round talent still coming up, which is
100%
incredible. But yeah, love the second tier. I don't think we should waste any more time on these three guys, unless you have anything else to say.
Well, I was just gonna say this just speaks to how good this class is. Oftentimes
100%.
you hear people say, "Oh, the next class is so good. The next class, you want the picks in the next class."
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people felt that way about 2023, but this year, I can genuinely sit here and say I think that this year is going to be just full chock blocked full of gold prospects.
100%.
Really, really exciting names. So the fact that there are 8 names in my first 2 tiers. I think last year there was like 4. I can't remember, but
I think
it's a very, very good class.
It is. It is phenomenal here. Once again, still a lot more talent here. So take us to your tier 3.
All right, tier 3. We are big fans of Troy Franklin. This is one of those names that is a little bit polarizing. Some people love him. Some people do not like him. And that's okay because we all look for different things in a prospect, but
100%.
He's 6'3", 187 pounds. I'm not sure he's actually 187. I think he probably plays around 175 to 180.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And I think one of the biggest narratives here for Troy is what is that going to look like at the NFL Combine? A lot of
Sure.
people want to see him put on weight already before the Combine. I think we'll probably see him in the 183 area, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think he, like you said, what you said, 187?
I think he's 187 technically on sites, but I think he plays more at 175 to 180.
Agreed.
But I also don't think he needs to put on weight. I mean, we have seen these lighter framed players be really successful at the next level. You know, when I think of a pro comp, it's kind of a combination of Deshaun Jackson and Devonta Smith. Somewhere in between there, a little bit of Jamison Williams too. Somewhere in between there, you find a Troy Franklin, but super unique size. But this is an explosive playmaking athlete. He's got a very good release package. I am very excited with the base that he has as a route runner right now. He's very good after the catch.
Agreed.
And you know, at 6'3", 187, we say he plays at 175 or so. You wouldn't expect that player to be super dynamic after the catch. It's a little bit of an awkward size, but he is a very good yak threat. Great short area quickness, elite long run speed. He's got pretty much all the makings of a star wide receiver. Broke out at the age of 19. He accounted for 24.6% of his team's receiving offense in 2022. We are big fans of his game. I think he ends up in the first round, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
We also love Brian Thomas Jr. I'll put Brian Thomas Jr. next.
Love it.
Just a ridiculously fluid athlete.
100%.
Benefited by playing alongside Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors, but he should not be discounted in his own right. There should be respect on his name. You and I both agree. This is going to be a first-round pick, right? You and I agree?
1,000%.
This will be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. I mean, I think he's 6'4", 206, but he moves so fluid. It is genuinely crazy to watch this guy moving across the field. It's a very exciting player. Great ball skills. You know, a high catch rate, high contested catch percentage type of player.
He's up there.
So I'll take him there. And then I'm going to finish with two quarterbacks, J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix in this tier.
Okay.
You know, we can have conversations about these names. I'm curious to see what you think about this tier, but I'll just quickly say on Bo Nix, people will love him. People will not like him. I'm aware. He's a very difficult prospect to wrap your head around because of the offense that Oregon ran. I mean, they ran a dink and dump offense. You know, Bo Nix probably threw the ball down the field 3 to 4 times a game. And the offense they ran was very effective, and he ran it really, really well. He ran it to perfection. Crazy completion percentage. How I view him at the next level, and we talked about this in a previous video, is a plus point guard. This title, game manager, point guard, is something that people are using as a way to knock a prospect.
Yeah.
It's one of the most important parts of playing the quarterback position at the next level. Like,
it is.
You need to be able to manage the game. You need to be able to distribute the ball. And Bo Nix is one of the best distributors, one of the best point guards in this class. A guy who can run an offense with complete competency, who can get the ball to your playmakers. Recently, you and I saw him mocked to the Falcons in the first round.
Yeah, which is
that
exciting.
That is perfect. Thinking about him, it's almost like Brock Purdy in San Francisco. If you get the right coaching staff there, you've got an explosive back in Bijan Robinson who can catch the ball. You've got Drake London. You've got Kyle Pitts who will be healthy by the time Bo Nix arrives, if that were to happen, right? But, you know, I'm imagining him in a place with weapons where he can just sit back and distribute the ball all around the field. A plus point guard who, you know, when you need to make a play out of structure can do that for you. So big fan of his. And as far as J.J. McCarthy goes, there's just a lot of question marks. We haven't seen him be the reason his team is dominating these games. Michigan, great defense. They run the ball. JJ's been very effective. He's been very smart with his decision making. He has all the intangibles. He just needs to be coached up at the next level. So big fan of his game as well. But anything you agree or disagree with this tier?
No, and look, I like all these guys. I would definitely have, I would say one more wide receiver that I think I might be a little bit higher than you, which is fine. But anyways, let's talk about Bo Nix, because I do agree, and he is, you know, slowly becoming one of the biggest risers here in my rankings because of the offense that you said, dink and dunk. You think of the Brock Purdy systems and how he has been really efficient. Now, when you think of Bo Nix, he probably has to fit into the right system. But if he does do that, which we are hoping for, he could be somebody that we can see elevate going into the middle of the first round, or maybe, I guess early end of the first round, if that makes any sense. I guess the early 20s, right? 2021. You think of the Rams, you think of the Vikings that are in that position, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are offenses that he can come in and easily be day one starter or be competing for a day one job as well. So that's really exciting. JJ McCarthy, I think we just have to wait until the college football playoffs to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I want him to be tested more. I think JJ is probably going to come back to college. If I think he'll join a 2025 class, which doesn't look as strong as this 24 class. But just quickly on Bo Nix, by the way, I was thinking of a comp for him, and I feel like he is a more accurate Baker Mayfield. If Baker Mayfield was more consistently accurate, that would be a very exciting quarterback to run your offense around. I also see a little bit of Russell Wilson to his game. But one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough for Bo Nix is how he ran the offense pretty much on his own. I mean, Oregon very much gave him the keys to the kingdom. Typically, you're seeing a lot of input from the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and pre-snap kind of judgments. Yeah. He was making all these pre-snap judgments by himself, shows a very high IQ. And the other thing is that he is very good under pressure. He had the second best pressure grade, according to PFF, at 90.7. He's always making good decisions. I mean, he only had 3 turnover-worthy plays all year, Badaki. That is first in college football. He had a turnover-worthy play percentage of 0.7, which, again, first in the NFL. If you need a guy to run your offense and you got weapons around him, I mean, he could be the next Brock Purdy. He really could.
I completely agree. And the more we talk about him, the more I hear things. I will not be surprised if there's going to be a team that absolutely loves him, that takes him earlier than what we expect. Like,
I agree.
Would I be surprised if he goes top 12? No. But, I won't be surprised if he falls to the end of the first either. That's how big of the window is for Bo Nix going into this first round here. So it's really exciting for some of these guys.
Falcons, Vikings, someone like that would be perfect.
100%. I mean, I think of New Orleans, the Titans. I know they just drafted Will Levis. Maybe not the Titans, but the Broncos with Russell Wilson. I mean, that's also hard of a contract to get out of. Seattle. Anyway, so list goes on. But this is a very interesting prospect in Bo Nix. But take us to your tier 4.
All right, tier 4. This is where the running backs start to come off the board. Again, I don't have a first round grade on any of these running backs yet. Now, with draft capital, that could change things if some of these guys don't go as high as we want them to, or some of them return to school, or these guys end up going higher. This is where I would have Trey Benson and Travion Henderson.
Fair.
They are back-to-back in my rankings. Running back 1A, 1B. What is your flavor? You can decide. I'm a huge fan of Trey Benson's game. We've talked about that a lot. I'd be happy to talk about any differences between those guys. But after that, I got some of my favorite sleeper wide receivers. We got Ladd, the space creator. We got Jalen McMillan. We got Xavier Worthy, and we have Adonai Mitchell, who these Texas guys are right beside each other. I think it will depend on what system they enter. I could see both of them being very, very good players at the next level. And as far as Jalen McMillan, this is just me standing on my film evaluation, saying I believe by the time all is said and done, Jalen McMillan will be much higher in people's draft boards than what he currently is. And we're already seeing that. Jalen McMillan was not healthy for most of this year, and he tried to play through it. Emeka Egbuka did not. But Jalen tried to play through it. And if you're looking at those games where he was injured, you're not going to be that impressed. The games you need to watch is week 1, because he was healthy this year, and then the Pac-12 championship, because that was the only 2 games he was healthy this year. And maybe by the time you're watching this, the college football playoffs are happening and he's balling out. Who knows? But this is my tier 4. Is there anything you agree, you disagree with, or you want to have a conversation about? Let me know.
Yeah, I like everyone in this tier. The only person, like I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier in tier 3, is that I do have Xavier Worthy in my tier 3 personally. Okay, I just like him more as a prospect, the talent. I think he does have that separation. I know he does struggle with drop passes in the past, but he has the ability to be an exciting slot wide receiver. He has the speed. He has the separation. He has the traits that you want. Now,
Sure.
where is that going to go? And I think maybe this is why you have him in tier 4, because you're just not necessarily sure where that draft capital is going to be. We've seen him go to the Chiefs in the late first. We've seen him go early in the second round.
Yeah.
So many different ways this narrative can go with Xavier Worthy personally, but everyone else here, I think it's on the same tier. Jalen McMillan is somebody that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Still, even with my scouting process, I'm just not sure. I just need to see more. Hopefully we see in the college football playoffs where he does get more involved. But yeah, he is somebody that I'm still trying to wrap my finger around and try to understand his gameplay and his game style, because I'm trying not to go too far back, into 2022, and I'm trying to find the limited film that we have in 2023. But look, everyone else in this tier I love Lad McConkey.
Yeah.
You kind of gave him the space creator, and Adonai Mitchell. A lot of very exciting draft places that we've seen in our one quarterback mock draft. Shout out to the one quarterback games if you're watching this. He's getting a lot of good landing spots, which really excites me when you think of the narrative that he can bring. Has the length. What is he, 6'2", if I'm not mistaken?
6'4", I believe, 196.
6'2", 6'4", 196. He has the ability to get there in the second level. So it's exciting to see these guys here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Adonai. The reason I can't put Xavier much higher is I'm not sure he ends up being a better NFL wide receiver than his teammate, Adonai Mitchell. That's not to say that he won't, but they are very different players. They bring very different things. But when I look at Lad and Jalen, I know their game will translate, and I believe Xavier's will. He has a higher ceiling. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see what the NFL thinks about him. But I'm a huge fan of all. Again, thinking back to 2022, the Kenny Pickett draft. All these guys in tier 4 could go first round over a lot of names in that draft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
1,000%.
It's such a stacked class. You're going to get players that you really love in the middle of the second, in the end of the second,
Yeah. Completely agree.
All right, heading into tier 5. This is where I would have Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
Don't really know where you stand. I think there will absolutely be people who have him higher, and that's totally okay. We say this every year. Quarterbacks are the most difficult position to scout. We're not going to pretend like we're quarterback experts because even the NFL isn't. But my concern with Michael Penix Jr., I know Bo Nix is an older prospect. I know he's played a lot of ball as well. But Michael Penix is a little bit different. He's played 6 years of college football, but he's also had both of his ACLs done and out for the year. He's been out for the year, I think, 3 years out of his 6 collegiate career due to season-long injuries. Yeah. He's picked up a lot of injuries along the way. He has limited mobility. And I just need to know what the NFL thinks about him. I don't personally project him to be a first-round pick.
Right.
People preach his accuracy, and I think there's a little bit of an issue with some of his accuracy at times. I'm not saying he's not accurate. I'm saying it's not consistent, specifically with his touch. I don't think his touch is exactly where it needs to be. So people preach that he's this pocket, super accurate type of passer, and he is accurate, but there are inconsistencies in his game. And if you're going to have limited mobility, I need to see you perfect that. And you've already been in college for 6 years. Again, the injury history is just, it does not stop. So I need to know what the NFL thinks about him. If they draft him in the first round, we'll have a completely different conversation. But after that, that's where I would have Jonathan Brooks. And look, guys, if Jonathan Brooks was healthy, and if I knew he was even coming to the NFL draft, then I would probably have him all the way in tier 3. I might have him somewhere here, right ahead of JJ. That's how much I like Jonathan Brooks as a player.
Yeah.
But he did just tear his ACL. We don't even know if he's going to go to the NFL. And if he does, you're going to be drafting a player who will not play his first year. It's not like he tore his ACL in August. He tore it at the end of the college football season, pretty much.
Yeah.
So he's going to be rehabbing that during the NFL season next year. It's a really difficult player to kind of, if you want instant returns, you're not going to see it.
No.
This is where I have Keon Coleman. I'd be happy to talk about that. This is where I have Xavier Legette. Someone who is rising in my rankings, Tez Walker, joins the crew here. Mm-hmm. And then Jatavion Sanders out of Texas. just a freak athlete at the tight end position, the number one athlete in his high school recruiting class, 5-star recruit, has put up some serious production at the tight end position. Who do you want to talk about the most here in this tier, or who do you agree with or disagree?
I think for the community's sake, I think we always have to talk about Keon Coleman. So let's have that conversation now. Obviously, you can see Keon Coleman's in Zach's tier 5, which kind of puts him in the middle to the end, middle of the second round, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
This is a player that Zach and I have been talking about. I think we've been hearing a lot of stuff in the comments as well of why people dislike or why they like Keon Coleman. But I mean, if you go watch, Zach's individual wide receiver rankings, if you go watch, our collective ones as well, Keon Coleman is not somebody that we believe his traits can translate into the current NFL. I think if Keon Coleman was in, I don't know, early to mid 2000s, whoa.
Yeah.
Right? Like maybe 2007, 2006, 2008. He has those traits of back then. We don't play that type of NFL anymore. He's just, in my opinion, a one, and I always sound really aggressive, but respectfully, like a one-trick kind of pony. He goes up and gets the contested catches and doesn't really bring anything else to your team, unfortunately. Right. Now we look at traits of we want wide receivers that separate. We want wide receivers that gets yards after the catch. We want wide receivers that can get elusive and be quick in space. Keon Coleman doesn't have that. Doesn't have those traits. But I mean, this is your video. I'm just talking about my thought process on Keon Coleman. Like this is what's hard for us to translate and why everyone's saying, I get it. The size, the body, he does have decent speed as well, but that's only one thing.
Yeah, I'm not as harsh on him as you are.
Yeah.
Like every time we talk about him, you're like, he only does one thing. I don't agree. I mean, let's talk about what he does well, in my opinion. I mean, First, I think he has some of the best hands in the class. There was a time there where he didn't have a drop on the year. I think he did have a drop ultimately in one of those last couple of games, but super strong hands. Is probably the best jump ball winner in the class. Anytime you get a one-on-one opportunity with Keon, he is going to go up and get it. I mean, he's got ridiculous body contortion, body control, ball tracking skills. He is very, very special with his hands and his ball skills. Broke out at the age of 19, by the way. He accounted for almost 27% of his team's receiving offense at Michigan State in 2022, alongside Jaden Reed. So that is impressive. However, I think his game suits college football a little bit more than the NFL. But I will say, like, he is returning kicks. He is a speedy athlete. There's just not like that short area quickness that you really want to see for him with that athleticism as well. But you're right, not the best route runner. Just rounded off routes. Doesn't manipulate defenders really at all. Just a lackadaisical part of his game. And he's not a very good run blocker either. When I compared him, there's two names that came up. The first one was Devontae Parker. And a lot of people forget how good Devontae Parker was in college. Devontae Parker was a ridiculous threat at college. Now, he came into the NFL and he dominated with Miami for a time, but that wasn't because of his separation skills. He always had a little bit of an issue separating at the next level. He still went in the first round, but he wasn't the best route runner. Yeah. He also reminds me a little bit of George Pickens. You can make some of those ridiculous highlight plays. And Badaki, the people who don't dive into film are going to love Keon Coleman, because they're probably watching highlights, and nobody has a better highlight reel than Keon Coleman in this class. He makes those ridiculous circus catches, so it's hard not to fall in love with him, but the tape speaks a little bit of a different language. A player I like. I think he can be a threat after the catch, but not to the extent that some of these other names are, and we're just concerned about how he translate at the next level. Now, I think quarterback play will be a big key for Keon Coleman. Yes, he's got a good catch radius. Yes, he's a good contested catcher, but you need a good ball placement guy. It reminds me of when Kenny Golladay was in Detroit. He wasn't a good separator, but he had Matthew Stafford consistently placing the ball in good areas for him, so he could make those plays. So there is a scenario where he's drafted to the right team, and it does become exciting. Excuse me.
Let Let me ask you that
we're a
question
little bit
then.
limited with what he can offer us.
And I think a lot of people would say that. I can't tell you right now, in my personal opinion, what is the right team he can go to. And if you have one, please let me know. Or comment down below. I mean, if you have a team, Zach, is there a team that you would boost your confidence a little bit? Not saying that's going to change your whole mind.
I would say if Denver moves on from Cortland Sutton, I think he can give them something similar.
Okay.
I would say, Russ is going to get that ball in a place where he can make a play. Another team that comes to mind would be the Bills, kind of giving you what Gabe Davis does, but at a plus.
At a bigger size,
yeah,
sure.
And a better talent overall. Those are two names that come to mind. I don't know. Like the Jags would be interesting, to be honest.
Okay.
Because you can see moments where, because Trevor, he doesn't have the best ball placement this year. And if there was, look, like Ridley is getting open at a ridiculous rate, but if you had a guy like Keon with his body and his frame, maybe you make some of those catches.
Sure. Sure.
There's definitely some names, but
okay,
it's going to depend on quarterback play.
I wanted to hear some thought process because I've been trying to think and really squeeze as much positivity out of Keon Coleman. It's just really hard to place him, and he's just, in my opinion, he goes to the Bills. He's a better Gabe Davis, but still limited in his opportunity, right? Because Gabe Davis is limited. He has the boom games and he has the bust games, and I
think the Keon truthers are going to say, well, players improve at the next level. That is true,
agree.
But we just don't see the base for him to be a above average route runner.
Yeah.
There's speed, but there's not short area quickness. There's not manipulation. Mm-hmm. There's not twitchiness really, in his route running at least. So we'll have to wait and see. A lot of people are going to be wanting him right here, Badaki.
That's where people have him. People
want him
higher.
Right here.
Yeah, people have him up there. They say he's top 8 pick in the NFL draft, they're saying.
People want him to be a top 7 pick in Dynasty Superflex rookie drafts. We can't get on board with it.
Yeah.
But things could change as the NFL draft hasn't happened. All right, at the 6th tier, Marshawn Lloyd. This is where you're starting to see some shots on running backs. Blake Corum, Braylon Allen, Bucky Irvin. It's time to take a shot, on some of these running backs, depending on where they land and what draft capital they get. It's not a strong running back class. You're going to hear us say that over and over again. We are getting people in the comment section saying things like, the class is good, you're not just diving deep enough. Well, we've dove pretty deep, and it's not that exciting, if I'm honest with you.
And that's what at least I keep saying is last year we were saying this class is deep at the running back room, and look where they went, and none of those guys are relevant. I think only 2 or 3 of them are relevant. Bijan, Devon, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and we were loving Roscoe. We were loving all these other people. They just didn't get the landing spot. We love Zach Charbonnet. This could change. This could be, maybe it flips on his head, and all these guys have an amazing landing spot.
Yeah,
right. Who knows? But yeah, look, we definitely have dove deep into these running backs. We don't think it's top heavy. Unfortunately, I think there's only 2 top 100 running backs in this draft class, in my opinion, and that is, as you can see, Trey Benson and Travion Henderson with Zach's rankings in tier 4.
Maybe Jonathan Brooks if someone wants to wait on him.
Sure, 100%. I completely agree there with Jonathan Brooks, but everyone else I think maybe is outside the top 100, maybe day 3, day 4 type of guys.
Yeah, a couple names, by the way, that would be in my tier 7 and could have made tier 6. Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. Mm-hmm. Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. Big fan of his game. A lot of size, speed wide receivers here.
100%.
Malachi Corley, which is not really that. I mean, he's more of like an after the catch guy.
Yep.
Devin Neal, Ray Davis, Audric Estime, Cody Schrader, Jalen Wright, Luke Lachey out of Iowa, Jermaine Burton, and Jalen Polk. All those names could have made it. We are still fluid in this list. Things will change.
Completely agree.
Just wanted to mention those names.
Yeah, I mean, look, so far, great tier. I think we kind of agree in a lot of these players. One of my biggest risers in my rankings so far, we talk about, is Bo Nix. I think he is going to be someone we get really surprised on. And everyone else.
I really want him in Atlanta. It would be perfect.
Yeah, it would be.
I want no Arthur Smith to be attached to him, though.
I don't see how that's possible. Yeah, I don't think he can still be successful with Arthur Smith, though. Maybe it's a different play caller. Is Arthur Smith
there
a play
could be
caller?
toxic groupthink, and then he could decide that Desmond Ridder is a quarterback he wants to start, even though he just drafted Bo Nix.
Oh my goodness! Imagine.
That man's
terrible.
making it up on the go. You cannot convince me he's not making it up on the go. I mean, to put your first round top 8 running back pick in timeout because he fumbled the ball in a game where you lost 7-9. That was the score, right?
I think so. Yeah.
You're making it up on the go. But anyway, that's it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of difference of opinion in the comment section. That's completely fine.
Agreed.
This is my opinions. Your opinions are valid too, so you can leave them in the comment section below. But it's okay to disagree, and I'm sure some people will be higher on certain players, lower on certain guys, and this list will look completely different, I'm sure, once April hits. But thanks for watching, guys. Do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe if you like Dynasty content, and we'll see you soon. All love. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh,
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.